'60s and '70s, Ellsworth was a very small community. It was more like a sense of a family than it was a town. Everybody knew everyone. Main Street was still fairly active, and High Street was only beginning to be developed. Its people and its history, and its historical significance to Hancock County is the geographic heart of Hancock County. Ellsworth has always been commercially as well as financially the center of much of Hancock County, and that tradition has continued on to this day. I think the most important and most significant event was when William Bingham of Philadelphia purchased 1 million acres in northern and Hancock and Washington counties in 1793, and by 1795 he began to develop a lot of the timberland north of Ellsworth, and that really was the beginning of industrial lumbering on the Union River. And that phase of Ellsworth's economy would last until 1929. I had family in the Civil War. It was a traumatic moment in the nation's history, but the citizens of Ellsworth rallied, and they contributed much to the cause, and it cost the community a lot. There are a number of critical landmarks, Woodlawn, the Congregational Church, but I think the most important to me are the Dutton Block and the Peters Block, the huge brick blocks downtown, because they were built in the mid to latter part of the 1830s when Ellsworth was becoming one of the largest exporting centers in the world. And those buildings are a reflection of a community which was basically coming from mud streets and small brick wooden buildings to a financial powerhouse.
I was born in Ellsworth in 1943, the old Hurley Hospital, which is at the corner of Birch Avenue and Oak Street. Well, one of the key events, which was in 1840, when the Know-Nothings, the nativists, decided they didn't like Father John Baptist, who was the Catholic preacher, and they tarred and feathered him, ran him out of Ellsworth on a rail, and he went to Bangor, and eventually they named a high school after him, Father John Baptist. Probably the two biggest historical events that were changes would have been the flood, which is referred to as the freshet of 1923, and the Great Fire of 1933. And if that didn't happen, you would not have all these brick buildings on Main Street, which was a result of the fire, saying all buildings will be masonry. And the fire wiped out pretty much all of downtown Ellsworth. The buildings that you can see where it didn't burn would be at the corner of Main and Water Street. You have the Roy Beardsley Williams building, which used to have a drugstore in it, and across the street you had, with the Democratic headquarters now, used to be McNally's store and Him. Those and the Union Trust block, those brick buildings were there, and if you see pictures from the 19th century, you'll still see those pictures. There was the downtown as you see it now. But what was different, what was the J&B Antique Place, was the good old J.J. Newberry's, where Curtis Bookstore is. There was Stratton's department store. That was our downtown. It had businesses that sold things. Where Riverside Restaurant was the First National Supermarket. Where John Edwards was A&P. So I've been on many boards, and I've left the boards, and so I'm always involved in something. I feel that if you're going to live in a community, participate.
The combination of industries and culture and events in history make Ellsworth remarkable. In 1838, I believe Ellsworth became the county seat. It took that position from Castine. And at about that same time, 1820s, 1830s, 40s, Ellsworth was a major hot port. It was one of the second or third busiest on the East Coast, sending wood products all over the world. Certainly down the coast, down the East Coast on vessels that were appropriately called coasters, but also as far as the Caribbean. I think Branch Lake is a pretty significant landmark. It's beautiful, it's really big. And the courthouse and Courthouse Hill, the Civil War monument, those two speak to the history of Ellsworth, which sent a good contingent of its sons to the Civil War. Well, the ice storm was an awfully important event. It kind of crept up on everybody. Everybody knew it was cold. Everybody knew there was freezing rain coming down. Nobody quite knew that the wires and the branches were quite as coated as they were, but the result was a whole big section of Maine was literally powerless for days, and for some folks for weeks. And schools and buildings and churches opened up their facilities to help out, and it was a good reminder that this is a community where people know each other and care about each other, and we may not be rich, but we're resourceful.
Well, I think key events, certainly in history, would be the Ellsworth flood, the Ellsworth fire, and certainly the Ellsworth bicentennial. From my memory, my age, the bicentennial, I remember that, and I think most everybody in Ellsworth was a part of it at some time. A lot of dress up, a lot of beards, but that was probably the biggest event that I can remember growing up until the growth of the business district happened, and High Street expanded, and that would, for me, be the next biggest thing that happened, would be the Ellsworth Shopping Center, and then the big mall as well. So I think Ellsworth is by far the best community to be born in, to be educated in, to work in, to retire in, and to die in. I think what makes Ellsworth unique is its people. I think the Ellsworth people are genuine. I think they have each other's back. I think they care for one another. I think we're a community that helps one another. I think we're a diverse community. I can't think of a better place to live than Ellsworth, Maine. I see positive things for Ellsworth's future. I think Ellsworth is growing. I think we have potential. There was a time when Ellsworth, you said you had to drive through Ellsworth to get to Acadia National Park. We're now a destination. We're not just a drive-through. We have the resources here, the retail here, the people are here to be a destination of our own.
I've lived in the Ellsworth area all of my life, which is 65 years. I was raised in Ellsworth until I was 21, and then I moved to Lemoyne and lived there for 7 years until 1978, and then I moved to Trenton, where I currently reside. Ellsworth has progressed, I guess you could say, from a shipbuilding community and also a supplier of bricks, because there used to be a brick yard down off Dean Street. As the whole nation has evolved, those endeavors, if you will, have gone away, and the change of lifestyle of people in general. So Ellsworth has been able to evolve according to the pressures, if you will, that have been put upon it by the economic changes. I would describe Ellsworth by using the Ellsworth motto, business, leisure, and life. Provides an economic opportunity, a great place for recreation, and a great place to live. Well, prior to my lifetime, you of course have the flood of 23 and the fire of 33, but in my lifetime, I would say the Ellsworth Builder Supply fire, which resulted in the loss of the Park Street School back in the mid-50s, and also the loss of the spool mill in the mid to late 50s, which is where the Knowlton School and now the Knowlton School Park proposed property is. And of course, the bicentennial of 1963 was a huge event for the city. I think the Ellsworth area provides economic advantages for employment and recreational opportunities.
To show a then and now a picture for Maine Municipal Association for a calendar, and actually we were chosen to be in the calendar. And what we did is we stood on Main Street and we took a picture. We had a picture on Main Street of the fire taken from a specific point on Main Street, and we went and stood on that same point and took a picture of now. And it was really neat, and the significance of how we rebuilt, you know, but still maintained our historical significance, but were able to rebuild from that fire. And if you think about High Street, when I grew up, my dad had a service station. It's actually where Town Auto is now. And at that time, Ellsworth High Street was a 2-lane road all the way up and back. Brits was the place that everybody shopped, which is what Shaw's is now. And if you think about that strip of a 2-way street is now 4 lanes with businesses all, you know, up and down it. And we've become so much more on that strip, and we've evolved from a 2-lane road to what people called the ugly mile in Ellsworth, to now it's a place that's been beautified, you know, and has sidewalks and a place for people to safely walk and flowers and things like that. I think that really looking at that is a good judge of what Ellsworth was and what it is now and what it is to become. Because it just, if you think back and look at the pictures, it's exactly how we've evolved from a 2-lane highway to a 4-lane with picturesque moments to it. You know, I just think that it's 250 years, and Ellsworth is really not an awful lot larger than it was 250 years ago. We've gone through ebbs and flows of population, but I think we're still that same town. I think we have a lot of pride in ourselves. I think we know ourselves and what we are and what we want to be, and I think that's a great thing.